for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, good Saturday morning still. Feels like late afternoon to me. I don't know about you guys, but welcome to the channel. Yeah, it feels like late afternoon to me because I still on Saturdays, I still get up at 3:15 and work out for a few hours before before going about the rest of my day. And I was doing a little guest chat over on Veteran Nation with Skipper, and we were talking about some stuff. And one of Skipper's regular viewers wants to know where I found the filter that makes me look younger. So Craig of Scotland is permanently banned from my channel for his smart assery. And but yeah, no, I told him it's fitness, folks. It's fitness that has made me look younger. I'm nearly half the man I was 6.5 years ago. 168 this morning, 168 pounds, down from 300 plus 6.5 years ago. So yeah, almost half the man I was. And still the full jerk, apparently, to some people. At least I've heard a lot of that the last couple of weeks. But yeah, we're going to be bringing Jay, the turbine guy, on here shortly. He's been on one other time, and he's told his full story then. But he's going to be having a different kind of conversation this go around. We're going to be talking about the Orono City Police Department and some of the stuff that they've got going on and what Jay's experienced there. So thanks for being here. I do want to share this. Oh, where is it? Well, where'd it go? It's not cooperating. That's not it. There we go. I did want to share this before we got going. This is in loving memory of Ryan Schultz. He is forever going to have the permanent show producer spot in grateful recognition of his generosity and his spirit. Rest in peace, Ryan. Passed away. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know, but anyway, there's supposed to be a picture there if you can see it. But Ryan's generosity has been a big part of my fundraising campaign, so and my partnership stuff. So I just wanted everybody to be aware. You will be seeing this on a regular basis going forward. And another quick announcement: the intro music is changing. So I know somebody said, "Don't change the music. I like it." It's time for a change, and you guys are going to like what I'm doing with the intro music. Writing the lyrics myself and working hard to make it sound good. So real quick, there's a description in the description is a link to the Give Send Go if you want to partner with me and help me continue to do the work that I do. Contrary to what former SEAL Adam Schwarzy's campaign lovers have said to me multiple times now in the last near week, that I'm being paid by another campaign to smear Adam. And I'm like, yes, whatever campaign is paying me to smear Adam, they're political and strategic geniuses because, you know, I have big reach. So if somebody wants to pay me to do content like that, if I could find a something about their opponent that I think is a is a corruption issue, I will gladly do that. I really wouldn't. I would not take money to smear anybody. That is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But yeah, so if you see the title of the video, the thick blue line, and there's a double entendre there, a play on words. If you're familiar with thick, it doesn't just mean the girl you like at the bar, and it's not just a thick shake, and it's not a thick wall. The thick, that thin blue line is really a thick blue line, and it's not thick because it's hard to get through alone. It's thick because thick is also a way of saying stupid. So when you hear Jay and I talk about the thick blue line today when he comes on, we're going to be talking about the stupidity of, at the very least, his local law enforcement agency that he has been dealing with for years, and their complicity, their complacency, and their corruption. And this is going to be worth a listen. So without any further ado, Jay, thanks for coming on again.
Hey there, how's it going?
So far, so good. We'll see where it goes from here. Oh, Jay's putting in his backdrop.
There we go. I just got it done. I got to do that.
He's,
Hey, everybody, that's my big idea right there. Wind turbines on top of ski lift poles.
hey, it's better than having to look at them all over the countryside where I live.
Well, these are a lot nicer. These aren't huge. They don't kill the eagles and stuff. And
Yeah.
I think I actually just did a video that it's really the raptors are the only birds that are susceptible to getting killed by the turbines. But still, there's a lot of problems that go along with those, like the big vibrations that come through it and the shadow flicker and all that. So it's just a whole different animal.
All these people down here that agreed to have the wind turbines on their in their fields and near their homes now are all like, I wish I wouldn't have. The vibrations and the sound is terrible. So
yeah.
But we, as much, and by the way, if they're not there now, the links to Jay's businesses and whatnot will be in the description. I thought I had them in there, but I can't say that 100%. But you definitely want to check out his YouTube channel. Jay and I both are throttled by the YouTube algorithm. For some reason, we thought we were done with that, but for some reason, we're still getting throttled.
Yep.
But Jay's got a much bigger following because Jay has some very interesting things that he does. So I would strongly recommend that you go over and check out Jay's channel and subscribe. And then on top of that, look for my other conversation with Jay, where we went into the backstory about his personal wind turbine story on his property and his personal story about pouring a driveway that the city didn't want him to have, I guess, without all their permission. But on top of that, Jay has had to deal with the Orono City Police Department through all of this, and they have been nothing but superstars, correct, Jay?
Oh, geez. If you need somebody to get DWIs or hide in the weeds and give speeding tickets, I got to admit, they're fairly good on medical emergencies. They're your police department. But when it comes to investigating crime or respecting people's rights, it's a whole nother world.
You mean they're not good at respecting rights?
I'm not sure any of them have read the Constitution, to be honest.
I can almost guarantee you that they haven't. It has become for me now, when I have an opportunity to actually have a conversation with a law enforcement officer, when I run into them, I literally ask them, how much have you studied the Constitution? And I've had them look me in the eye and go, why would I do that?
That has nothing to do with swearing an oath to it, right? Nothing to do with that.
I almost feel like, how we all get those updates on our phones, our new privacy notice or our new terms of use and all of that. And we all look at it and we go, oh, new terms of, and then you read like the first two sentences and then you just scroll to the bottom of it and hit accept.
Yep.
that's exactly what happens when they take the oath of office to be a cop.
I don't think they even get that far.
They may not even get to the first sentence. You're correct.
Given what I've seen in numerous videos online of my personal experiences, I don't think they even get that far. And I've had so many interactions with the local police where I tried explaining to them, like, I'm in a right of way, or you can't do that, or I have a right for this. They just look at you with a blank stare and go, well, yeah, but we're telling you to do something.
Let's just cut to the chase. Let's not beat around the bush, Jay is not experiencing phasing or time slips. He's just got a he's got a green screen. He's got a green screen, and every time he moves, he looks like he's slipped into another dimension, but he hasn't. He's still there.
I'd more say it's my brain waves. My brain waves are causing this to happen.
Is that okay? Well, since you're the guest, we'll let you say that. So, Britt, you brought up the right-of-way issue that you experienced. That nearly landed you in hot water. Go ahead and tell everybody about that.
Silly me. Back when I was running for Senate in 2016, I thought I'd go up to the high school that I graduated from, the school system I went through all my years, and stand on a corner and hold up my sign as the kids are showing up. Not so much for the kids to vote, although there might have been some 18-year-olds there I could have swayed a little, but more the parents coming by and all that. And I was standing in the right of way. I knew I was because
people understand the right of way is that strip of land between the school's main property and the road, which is technically a buffer zone where people are allowed to be on it because it's still considered public property. And it starts at, it's like 15 feet from the center line of the road or something like that.
Where this one is, it's 33 feet from the center line.
Oh, 33. So you had plenty of room.
Yes. And, a lot of roads, like right in front of my house here, the end of the right of way is pretty much the end of the road. It all depends on where you are, on how much right of way there is. But where I was, and I hadn't researched it at the time, I looked up the street and saw a fire hydrant right about where I was, the same distance. If there's a fire hydrant there, you're in the right of way.
Yeah, you're in the
fire hydrants are put in the right of way everywhere.
Yeah.
So I knew I was, and I'm holding my sign up, Nygard for Senate. And after a little while, I had a cop come out, Orono cop, and he's like, well, you can't be here. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure I can. I'm in the right of way. And, if I had known then what I know now, that conversation certainly would have turned out differently. But eventually he's like, no, school administration doesn't want you here. You can't be here. Like I said, this is a high school I went to, and they don't want to support me or allow me to support myself. So I got pushed down the road to he said, well, you can go stand down over there by where the baseball field entrance is. So I eventually went down there to stand, and, he's got me down in the bottom of a ditch now instead of right by all the traffic. But it's crazy because I just recently got the police report through a certain data request, and I had no idea this police report was ever written. And
you have a police report from 2016, and they still managed to have that sitting around to send to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I've done a lot of interesting research on police reports. And since everybody's digitized, I don't think any police reports are going away anymore. I think they're all just going to be there until society falls. This is going to be grabbable information. And that's frustrating.
So 2026, December? Because it feels like it'll be December at this point. So
it could. Who knows? And I've got my own sneaky ideas the Chinese could do to really screw our country over. But that's a whole nother conversation.
You mean buy up vast tracts of farmland around the United States military installations, have secret police stations in U.S. cities?
No, not even that.
Oh, okay.
Even more insidious. If you want me to go on a quick aside.
No, let's tell your story. No, go. Give me your quick aside and your quick one, not a normal when we're talking.
No, there's a new requirement for inverters in this country, UL 1741 SB, which is an upgrade from SA. And the
So
only
he's talking electrical stuff, folks.
yeah, and the UL 1741 rating is specifically there. So when the grid goes out, systems don't turn back on for a period of time. So the people working on the poles don't get zapped. Okay. It's a safety mechanism, and it makes sense. Being in the business all these years, it makes sense. But the difference between the SA and the SB is a communication protocol in which the power companies, and you sign off on this now when you sign up, the power companies can control your solar or wind systems themselves if they want to. And they claim they do it to keep the grid from experiencing stress or whatever, but they can literally shut you down if they wanted to. And that's a little crazy to me. But just imagine if the Chinese decided, hey, we're going to go into Taiwan and we're going to wait until there's a shaky grid day in the US. They hack a couple of the large power companies like maybe Excel or Pacific Gas and Light or whatever, and then they send a code to drop all the solar systems at the same time. What's going to happen to our grid? It's going to crash.
Yeah, for sure.
So this possible, and then China, while it's going into Taiwan dealing with that, knows the U.S. has its own emergency it has to deal with right now, especially after weakening itself with Iran. So,
Yep.
there's this crazy way, even more insidious than anybody knows. And then with China, with all their assets around the country, is actually positioned to keep that emergency going.
Oh, for sure. Well, folks, this has been your black pill moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm putting together a video on this, and this is why I like you. We have a common thread, and it's about holding government accountable. And both
the heck you say.
Yep. That's very important to both of us. And I'm going to be putting a video together about this to point out to the people the danger we're actually in right now that nobody knows about. And this all comes from California because everybody copies California's codes. And this is also all China had to do was get a couple of people in.
And there's a very strategic reason why everybody copies California's codes too. And that's because all the manufacturers who, food, lawn chemicals, machinery, pumps for plumbing issues, electrical systems going into cars, you name it. California has the most restrictive codes there are for all of these items.
Yep.
So instead of making a product just certified for California use, they make all their products certified for California use. And then they distribute those across the entire country to all of their customer base. And that's why you can be living in BFE, Iowa, and pick up.
You're stuck living to California's lifestyle.
Picking up a can of something, and on the back of it, it will say meets California Health and Safety Code X2532B.
Yep.
So whether your state requires those things or not doesn't matter, because California's requirements have made it possible for those requirements to spread across the entire country without any consent from the legislative bodies in the state you live in. So
yes, there are very few products that actually make different things for California versus the rest of the country. And you're absolutely right. And the crazy thing is, the Chinese aren't stupid. And they know this too. So they get into California, get California to rewrite the inverter code to put this communication protocol in, and it propagates throughout the country because you got companies like Excel go, yeah, that's a good idea. We don't have to do any work. Let's go with it.
Right.
So
exactly.
there's
AVA,
my conspiracy theory.
AVA and Veterans Affairs Media wants to know if this is a hypothetical situation or a prediction. It's both.
Yes,
it's both. I mean, we've all heard everybody talk about what's the phrase that most people are familiar with? The electrical infrastructure of the United States.
Yeah.
The grid. The electrical grid is very dangerous. It is in a very dangerous position. And nobody really, unless you happen to live in one of those cities, and when I mean cities, or a region where rolling blackouts are scheduled. And there are people who live in regions where they schedule rolling blackouts, or they put restrictions on electrical and water usage based on time of day.
Yep.
So those people have somewhat of an idea of just how fragile the electrical grid, the power grid in the United States is. But a lot of us, especially in the Midwest, unless we have some sort of major tornado or windstorm or ice and snowstorm that takes down the grid for a few hours, most of us have no idea how fragile the grid is. But
Yes, no, you're right.
technology has
Well, I was going to
made the
say a
grid
big.
even more fragile.
Well, what I want to say is this is a masked problem. The problem's been masked over as the population of our country explodes, only because the efficiencies of things like televisions and other things are improving so much
Mhm.
that this problem's being hidden. But at some point, like you said, we're already doing rolling blackouts in some areas. I know our house down in Florida, we're the end of the line, so we tend to lose power 6, 7, 8 times a year. Depending on what happens, or the hurricane comes through, we lose power for weeks at a time, which is why I got my solar and battery bank, because when the power goes out, we're always up and running, and I got an old style system that they can't control. So I'm safe on that end.
But okay, so that a little bit more of a than a short
Yep.
rabbit trail. But anyway, so back to the cops in Orono, Minnesota, not knowing the Constitution, which of course is a theme that seems to be traveling from agency to agency across the entire country. And unless you think it was only 2020 where cops set aside their adherence to the Constitution because it was for your good to make you wear a mask or trespass you if you refuse to wear a mask or show up to your house. And yes, it did happen in Minnesota, folks. Cops across the state of Minnesota did show up at people's homes when they were reported for having more than 10 people in their homes at Thanksgiving. Yes, that did happen.
And by the way, you gotta
numerous
love
times.
that how Walls came out and said, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna set up a hotline where you can rat out your neighbor."
Yep.
It's like, come on, man, this is not communist Russia. What the heck are we doing here?
No, it is the people's state of Marxisota.
Yeah,
So, but
that's for
so
sure.
the lack of constitutional understanding predates COVID, predates 2020, and has extended now well past, because we are seeing people arrested, say in Texas, and I was just talking about this with everybody that's come over from Skipper's stream. Thanks for being here. We were just talking about the poor lady down in Texas, an independent investigative journalist that was arrested for a Facebook post talking about the bad quality of the water in the town that she lives in. They arrested her.
Yeah.
For that.
I'm not surprised. That they arrested a lady in Cape Coral, Florida, because she didn't want to hook up to the sewer or anything else. She wanted to deal with those things herself. And they're like, nope, you have to be hooked up to everything or else. It's crazy.
So yeah, it's absolutely insane, the things, and this is what I know Jay wants to touch on, but the reality with law enforcement. Oh, just a second here. This is an interesting comment. My little brother be wiring them server buildings. Traveling all over Utah, Texas, West Virginia. Man, I see the complaints and distractions that follow. So, yeah, well, if you're talking about the data centers, that is a hot issue right now, and it is uniting people from the left and the right. Boy, you wondered what was going to take the left and the right to come together.
Yeah.
Data centers is what it took. But anyway,
well, you just have to remember, if people really get upset about that, we'll just start another war somewhere else to divert the attention.
We're kind of running out of places in the Middle East to bomb, Jay.
Oh, come on. We got all of Africa yet.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. I mean,
Southeast
Asia. We could go back into Southeast Asia. That went well the last time. But what we're seeing is the weaponization of law enforcement by municipal, county, and state and federal government agencies, not just law enforcement agencies themselves, but agencies in general, where now cops are being put into position to actually be policy enforcers.
Yep.
They're being put into place to be enforcers of politicians' whims. And we brought up like data centers is a great. We're seeing this happen. It's happening in Minnesota. It's happening in Wisconsin. It's happening in Virginia. I've seen arrest after arrest after arrest after arrest of people going to city council meetings and county commission meetings and speaking out against the county commissioners and the city council members for allowing a data center to go in and signing non-disclosure agreements. And law enforcement, instead of doing its job in keeping its oath and protecting the people that are speaking out against these things and demanding the city council not allow these conditional use permits to take place for these places, they silence the dissent and the cops go along with it. And literally, the people who back the officers in this situation say, hey, man, it's not his fault. He's just doing his job. And Jay's run into that a lot in his area, but it goes deeper than that because, Jay, you posit more than a theory. You have demonstrated that it's really kind of the policy of the Orono Police Department to have this wall where they, between themselves and the public, they see themselves as better than the people they serve.
Oh, absolutely.
And they see themselves as the enforcement arm of the city council and the mayor.
Yep.
That's what they're there for. Because
not just that, but to protect them as well.
Yes. So starting in 2016, when you had this first kind of run in with this officer who you, and I think it's fair to say you weren't necessarily quite as prepared as you are now to deal with that.
Yes.
You kind of went along and accepted being herded away
Violated.
You were violated, but herded away from the area where you wanted to be because you thought you had to obey him in that moment. To then from 2016 on, you've had just continuous run in after run in after run in with the Orono Police Department, and it has always been them enforcing policy and code. They've never been able to point to a single actual law that you have violated.
They have tried. I've been through 4 criminal prosecutions. You throw my wife in and there's 5, and we've been exonerated on all of them. And, doing a little research, Hennepin County has a 92% conviction rate. That means that it's not just conviction, that's getting people to knuckle under and plea. And getting off 5 times in Hennepin County, we're 4 times more likely to win the Powerball than to do that. So it's an overwhelming juggernaut you're up against every time. And you're absolutely right. It was all about enforcing policy. I even have an email from the chief of police that says Nygard put a small wind turbine in his front yard with a shovel. He might be putting it up this weekend. If he does anything, since city staff's not here, position your squad car and film him. So basically,
say that. I want to make sure that the audience hears this. Say that content. Repeat the content of that email from the chief of police one more time.
Okay, well, I like poking people. So I put the turbine out there with the shovel for fun, and I had no idea till I actually saw the police report a couple years later. But the chief of police put out an APB to everybody. If Nygard's working in his yard on this, film it for the city. And this is a property zoning issue. There's no crime I was committing. And that's not only
that is so important. That's so important for people to hear. The chief of police is doing the bidding of the city code enforcement, which is not a law enforcement project.
Correct.
But most cities are now using cops as code enforcement.
Not just cops are using the criminal courts because it's cheaper for them to do that. And when they use the criminal courts to do it, people feel more pressure to resolve the situation. So it's very effective using that. And the sad part about that is when you go to criminal court versus civil court, you actually do have rights. So it's the difference between the two. But I'm supposed to have the right to confront my accuser, And what they do is a neighbor files a property complaint. That's
Right.
the accuser. The city comes and says there's something there. The city goes to the police department, says, here, sign off on this. We want him charged. The cops sign off on it without doing any investigation. They just blindly sign off. And then you got a criminal charge against you, but you have no right to confront that initial accuser by Minnesota state law.
Right. And
that violates the Constitution, but they don't care.
right. And that's why when people hear me talk about the criminal justice system, I am not just talking about cops. I'm talking about the entire system, from the street cop to administrative levels to the courts, and that includes prosecutors and the county attorney's office public defender wing, as well as the court administration, all the way up to the Department of Corrections. The entire criminal justice system is in on this game. They're in on the game, and they play it very well. And so when you have the chief of police of Orono literally telling his staff to surveil somebody over a potential code violation, to then give that to the city, not for anything criminal that was done, because code violations like this are not criminal. That is a massive overstep and violation, but nobody does anything about it because they're all in on it. It's like the Minnesota way of handling child support. It's not a criminal violation. It is not a crime, but people who violate court orders for child support can be imprisoned indefinitely in Minnesota. And they use law enforcement and sheriff's offices to do that. And they all go in on it. And it's a civil case. It's a 100% a civil case, but they imprison them on a civil case with no charges. And to make it worse, Jay.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm just grabbing an exhibit. To show
this
you.
is the
highlight.
reality of the system.
You see this file right here? These are all Orono police reports and criminal complaints for which I've been completely exonerated if it was criminal, but this is mostly property complaints, and these are all police reports. This is what the neighbors wanted, was to build a criminal file on me out of nothing. And the cops went along with it the whole time. Not once did they tell the neighbors, hey, knock it off, only give us a call if there's a real crime going on. They just simply said, well, if we get a call, we have to go out there.
Which is not true. It's literally not true. They only have to respond to actual objective criminal behavior or public safety concerns. And as was cited earlier in the Castle Rock case, they're not even obligated to protect you in a moment of great risk. They're just, the courts have protected them from being on the hook for not protecting you during moments of great risk. So then we have to ask ourselves, in moments like this, what Jay's been dealing with, what is the purpose of the existence of the Orono Police Department? Because you have said that they have a very ingrained, entrenched, almost a genetic desire to be inept and be at war with the people of Orono.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because I don't know if you've got the pictures handy, but there was a period of time, and I was, of course, they investigated me for this because they were going after me, and it's hard for them to look beyond anything that they see right in front of them. But someone went to a bridge over here and literally painted in huge letters, OPD blows on the bridge. I took a picture of that. I mean, that's epic, right? But what did the police department do?
No, Jay didn't do it.
No, I didn't do any of this. What did the police department do to whoever wrote this that they felt they had to go out and release their frustrations in this manner? And that's not just the first thing. There was the carp incident where someone literally beat an Orono cop car with carp, big carp, and then threw a rock through the back window and threw some carp in the back seat. Now, I happen to know who it is now. I've actually solved the crime. The OPD never could. Someone came forward to me when I did a recent video and said, "Hey, it was me." And I talked to this person for a while and did a video about it. And that's just one. And then a couple of months later, 2 Orono cop cars were burned up in arson. So you've got these three major incidents, excuse me, and you got the Orono police chief in the newspaper article going, "Gee, I don't know why people don't like us." Well, dude, you have to look in a mirror at some point and say, what are we as a police department doing wrong that would put people in a position that they feel they have to express their whatever in this manner? What are we doing wrong as a police department? But they don't have that capability. Their only capability is to look at the people and go, what's wrong with these people? Not what's wrong with us.
Yeah, it's ingrained in them that if you have a critique, you must be a criminal. I mean, that's just you watch the interactions, and here's what happens, because law enforcement agencies themselves won't say that. Well, some of them are bold enough to say that, depending on what state or county they're in, but the law enforcement agencies themselves very rarely actually make statements like that. What they end up doing most of the time is relying on their fan base, their sycophants, to say that. So, you look at one of the stories that I've been covering since May of last year is the case of Trooper Ryan Moser paralyzing Blake Mosted in that terrible 120 mile an hour plus incident where he mowed them down on the highway. I have made a habit of going on to the Minnesota State Patrol Facebook page whenever they post something about driving smart and driving safe and whatnot, and lambasting them for it. And their sycophants just come out and they're like, "Well, you probably have a record 25 miles long. That's why you don't like the cops." Like, no, I don't have a record 25 miles long. I'm sick of watching them get away with things. And so, as you said, they see you as the problem. If you criticize them, you're the problem. It couldn't possibly be anything that they've done wrong. In the case of Orono, Jay, is with the police department there, is it an issue? Like, I've been talking this concept over with my researcher, Natalie, who, by the way, guys, we're on our own this week. Natalie is on vacation. I'm not going to tell you where she's going, but Natalie is on vacation. So everything that happens this week has got to be either as a result of stuff she did before she went on vacation, or I'm just winging it. I'm just, which may not end well, but
don't worry, I'm here for you.
Oh, Jay stepped up. But I've been discussing with Natalie about another case, 2 cases we're covering in another county, that I'm in this place right now where I'm trying to determine what came first, the corruption or the ineptness. And I said, sometimes I feel like it's ineptness that came forward first, and then the corruption came to cover how inept they were. And then the more inept they got, the more corrupt they got, and the more corrupt they got, the more inept they got, because it was just a cyclical building. We have to cover the ineptness, and the corruption then spurs on more people being inept, and it attracts other inept, corrupt people, and it just spirals out of control. And you are in a place right now with Orono where you're kind of seeing this play out. It's not just that every one of the cops in Orono is like a made man paid off by the mafia to do shakedowns at local businesses and do hits on people. Some of them are just inept. And you
not
saw
just
that.
some. Not just some. Problem is it comes from the leadership. When you have inept leadership, then you get laziness, and then you get along and go along type of stuff. It's a good old boy network. And that's what's developed here is Chief Farniok came from within the Orono Police Department, never went anywhere else, never had any real world experience, and has no idea what the Constitution is because he was never forced to deal with it. Why? Because everybody covers for each other there. They had 31, I did the research, they had 31 complaints against the city since I think 2010 by citizens. And somehow miraculously, Orono cleared itself in every instance, all 31 times.
Wait, you mean 30 just against the city or against the police department?
Against the police department.
31 claims against the police department, and every single time they investigated themselves, they came back with a finding of we're good.
The mafia would be jealous of the ability of these people to cover for themselves. I mean, wow. My wife filed a complaint against one officer during our prosecution for failing to do any investigation, just signing off and filing charges. And her case was dismissed for lack of probable cause. Well, if he would have got off his ass and done something, he could have figured that out. So anyways, she filed a complaint with the post board. The post board sent it to the OPD to investigate. And when we asked this officer in a deposition, if he knew he was under investigation or there's a complaint filed, he said, no, I never even knew anybody filed a complaint.
And that's therein lies the rub, because the one agency that you would think in the state of Minnesota that would be responsible for investigating law enforcement, it would be POST, which in Minnesota is the Police Officer Standards and Training, or Peace Officer Standards and Training, which is to be a law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota, you have to be POST licensed. You have to have your license from this organization. And I know for a fact, because I have talked to multiple people who have filed complaints with POST, that to get an actual complaint to stick is almost impossible. Almost impossible. What POST will do is, if a cop is actually caught breaking the law on duty and it's public, they'll deal with it, because they're in a position where it's out in the open. There's that sunshine, and sunlight or sunshine is the greatest disinfectant. And other than that, you write a complaint to POST and you might get a form email back that says, thank you for, and I'm making this up, but thank you for making us aware of the situation. We'll look into it. And then you'll never, and if you do hear back, it'll be, we've examined your evidence, or we've looked at your evidence, and we've spoken, and we find that there is no valid complaint here. And and here's another issue with filing complaints with against law enforcement, by the way. And I want everybody to understand this. In the state of Minnesota, make no bones about it. One, you can be charged with a crime for lying to police.
Yep.
If you lie and most states have some version of a law like that. But in Minnesota, if you file a false report about a crime, they will charge you with a crime for filing a false report. They get to determine if your report is false. You don't get to determine that. They just look at what you say. They do their investigation. And then if they determine that you filed a false report, then you can be charged with a crime. And I had an officer use that on me when I tried to file when I tried to file a report for assault by the head of the University of Minnesota in Rochester, when he was trying to take my cameras out of my hand at an event and made contact with my body. Officer threatened. He goes, well, I'll go ahead and forward the charge, but I'm going to file charges against you for filing a false report.
Which is crazy, because here you have that being abused against you, and I've got my neighbors abusing the system,
filing false reports,
all of this, and I'm pointing it out. Hey, and I'm making actual complaints that these are false police reports, and nothing. Wouldn't do a thing about any of it.
And Jay, I know Jay will know this, but on top of filing a false criminal report, so in my case, I was trying to have the president of the university system in Rochester charged with a crime of assault. If you file a report, a complaint against law enforcement, not a criminal charge, but if you file a complaint against a law enforcement officer in Minnesota and they determine that your complaint is a false complaint, you can be charged with a crime for that.
Yet they get to lie to us all they
Yes.
want to.
All
They
the
get to
time.
lie whenever they want to, whatever they want to do, which is why you just never even want to talk to them. Because first of all, you don't know if they're ever going to be telling you the truth. And there's one of the guys I watch, Southern Draw Law, and he's absolutely right. Once a cop has it in their mind that you're a bad guy or whatever, you're never going to convince them otherwise. So don't even bother trying.
Right. And that's it. I have it somewhere. I have the video of the officer that threatened me with filing false complaints. I have the officer on audio, and I believe I have his body cam somewhere. It's been a couple of years now. So I'm just like, you know what? At that point, it's like, it's not worth it because they are going to fight you tooth and nail because they've already decided that you're the bad guy. And so,
which,
so
by the way, which is how this gets built. They decided originally, I'm the bad guy. So anytime anything happened, they reacted in that manner. And they've done so much. They've committed Brady violations against me, where they withheld police reports. I told them, I don't want you talking to my minor son unless I'm there. They waited till I went out of town, smashed in my $5,000 door to handcuff him and put my daughter in her underwear for hours in our house. I mean, I can go through the whole list and litany of things that the Orono Police Department has done that are violations of constitutional rights of me and my family, and there's just nowhere you can go. You can't get any help.
You have evidence of falsified reports too, correct?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got a report here where the neighbor says I had an illegal bonfire on my property, and the cop literally wrote they were cooking hot dogs on a grill. How much more false can you be? Just trying to get me in trouble over nothing. It got to the point, and it got so bad that I had to take it. I had to take it into my own hands to stop the harassment from the OPD. And I ended up sending them a fee schedule and said, every single time you come to my property from here on out, and it's not a crime, I'm going to charge you for our time and for our inconvenience. And within a week, they were out knocking on the door about, I think, a broken stick or something along the property line. So I sent them a bill for $350. They never paid it, of course. So I took that bill, I took my fee schedule, and I sued them in conciliation court. And down there in the hallway, I finally got them to talk to me. There was the chief of police, the officer who had come to door that day, and the Orono attorney. And I'm talking to Chief Farniok, going back and forth. And I got this lawyer stepping in, trying to tell me what for. And I just looked at him and said, I'm not talking to you. So just leave me alone. And I went back to talking to the chief. And we came to an agreement because at that time, Orono was doing traffic duty with unmarked cars, which was illegal. We came to the agreement that I would stop documenting the illegal activities of the Orono Police Department, and they would stop harassing my family. And that literally stopped it. Of course, he went and told the police, the department, a completely slanted view of what was going on. My view was just stop harassing us. This is causing us a lot of stress. But no, it's Nygards don't like the cops, and the Nygards this and the Nygards that. And I get to hear all this through the grapevine, and I get to hear it from officers.
Yeah. So and another thing that happens with that too is not only are you, in their minds, you're building a reputation that with Orono PD, that they all believe you hate them.
Yep.
And when you have more contact like that, what ends up happening there again, and this is in every jurisdiction in every state, I guarantee you cannot prove this wrong. You get a flag on your name on a file that says not friendly or hostile towards law enforcement. And so you're driving down the road, cop pulls in behind you, they think he's got you for some sort of minor traffic citation, runs your plate comes up, information comes back on their computer as they're typing going down the road, by the way, and there's a that flag is there, right? And the first thing that they see is hostile or unfriendly towards law enforcement. And this may be somebody who doesn't know you in the least. It could be another county, it could be another state, or not another state, but even another county, it could be a state agency, like a state patrol. They don't know why you're flagged that way. They don't know what the purpose of that is. They just know that you're not going to be friendly, which puts them immediately on edge. They're going to be already ramped up, ready for a confrontation, which is what has led to so many side of the road struggles. And the person who's got that flag never knows that there's a flag on it. But the cop comes to the car.
A lot of us figure it out after a while.
Yeah, you and I know. I guarantee you, there's a flag on me somewhere. Somebody has put a note in, and I haven't even had run-ins. The last time I had and you were following that story, the last time I had any actual run-in with law enforcement was when they tried to kick me out of the polling place in the election in 2024 because I had my camera running, and they told me that it was illegal, and they called the cops on me. They called 911.
It's crazy.
They called 911, and so I don't think that would have, but see, they all know me here and they know I'm not violent and whatnot, but I guarantee you somewhere there's a flag on me, and somebody who doesn't know me will respond differently if I ever get pulled over for speeding. So
So one thing I did to try to combat exactly what you're saying is many times I'd go up to the city council meetings here or in Mound or wherever, and I'd speak against the Orono police and their incompetence. For instance, when Julissa Thaler shotgunned her kid out here, and they had her on the side of the road, then drove her home, said it would be their honor to drive her home. Then,
and by the way, folks, I have those videos that Jay gave to me, and Jay knows this. So, but one, this is a public apology, Jay. I'm not ignoring those videos. You know how busy I am.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on how does she say her last name?
Thaler.
Yeah. It's Julissa
Thaler.
Yeah, Julissa Thaler. She deleted her teenager.
Yep. Well, not even teenager. He was 7 years old.
Oh yeah, that's right. Deleted her 7-year-old and almost got away with it, right in front of the Orono police.
Well, the crazy thing was, during that stop, the back window was shot out. There were bullet holes in the car. There was blood in the car. There was blood on her. There were spent and unspent shotgun shells. There was missing a tire on one of the front wheels. And you can hear the cops on the body cam say at least 5 times the car smells like death, and they still drove her home. Now, if that was me or you, we'd be cuffed and stuffed with any one of those.
Clip that, AI.
Yeah, no kidding. But so you have afterwards, when they're going to rearrest her and stuff, you've got the deputy chief of police, now the deputy chief, who was a sergeant on scene at the time, talking to the coroner going, well, I've got this car in front of me and this other scene and this other scene, and I don't know what to do. I'm sitting there going, anybody who's watched CSI knows you secure the crime scene. I mean, how do you not know? This guy's a deputy chief of the Orono Police now, and he does not know how to secure a crime scene.
Well, and just think about, in light of the way they have not prosecuted you, persecuted you, they have spent a massive amount of time going after people like Jay. And obviously we know that it's not just Jay, that people, or Jay's not the only one. It's not just his wife. It's not just his kids.
I have people who come out of the woodwork because they're afraid to speak up. And they come and talk to me about their stories. There's several women who have come to me complaining to me that the Orono Police Department has no idea how to deal with a sexual assault, and they typically just blame the victims. And one lady even had to push and push, and her assaulter
Attacker.
ended up getting 4 years in prison because of
Because
her
she
effort.
did the work.
She did everything and made him go through it. And then once the police discovered that they had lost a video she sent them, and they got that to the prosecutor, it was too late, but he easily would have gotten another 3 or 4 years. So it's crazy.
They're so busy covering for the city and doing things for the city, which people are like, well, they work for the city. Yeah, they are hired by the city, but they're hired for a very particular reason, and that is supposed to be, and I know we've got Castle Rock to think about, but it's supposed to be public service in the sense of public safety. In fact, most cities now, even small towns, do not have just a police department. They have a public safety department is what it is.
Yep.
And the chief of police is the head of that most of the time.
Yep.
The bigger the city is, the more likely it is that they have a public safety division or department. And that is supposed to cover a wide swath of things. And they actually, most of the time they do, you see them out running traffic. Jay's already mentioned that. But they're so busy, especially in towns like Orono, doing the bidding of the council, the code department, the code enforcement department and whatnot.
Or certain people.
Right.
Or certain people, that there's people that they are more than happy to help out harass neighbors or other things.
Sure. But they're so busy with that they're not even dealing with actual crimes. And so in the case of this lady who deleted her 7-year-old, they were completely unprepared for it. And that's where the corruption breeds the ineptness, which breeds the corruption. And that brings us to this guy who is now a deputy chief, who is getting ready to step in and take over for the now retiring chief.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about those two, and feel free to name their names.
Well, Chief Farniok's been with the department forever. He's retiring at the end of this month. And I did go up to the city council last month, and I begged him. I put a video together, but bring in someone from outside, please. Someone who's got some real world experience. I pointed out, growing up here and having some dealings with the police as a youth, I'm probably the most reasonable person to talk to about the Orono Police Department over the years, because I was on the Council and Planning Commission back in the 90s. Like I said, growing up, I've dealt with the police unwantedly most of the time, but I can see how they operate and how they work. And what they need someone who's got real world experience to come in and help these people understand that there's more to policing than just playing the good old boy network and collecting your paychecks and doing your overtime. There's a lot more to it than that.
Well, it's one of the critiques that are leveled at people like me, and in particular, is that, well, you just hate all the cops. I'm like, it's not true. I don't hate all the cops. There are a couple that I have reserved some very strong feelings of animosity for, but what I hate is the ineptness and the corruption that I see. And I hate the fact that there are so many out there that will not speak out against it when they do see it.
Yes.
Jay knows this. He's been labeled a kook because of his struggles. And this is what they rely on. They rely on, the more that they have interactions with you, the more people begin to see you as the problem. And so the turbine guy, he's this crazy dude. He thinks he's a sovereign citizen, or he thinks the laws don't apply to him. And I mean, I know you've heard those comments.
Oh yeah.
And I've heard those as well. And the problem with that is that it's this assumption that law enforcement, they don't make. They know what the problem is. the assumption is on the part of the people who back them that you must be the continuous problem. And therefore, because you're the continuous problem, the law enforcement is justified in how they interact with you. They're justified in how they see you, how they view you. And that's a very dangerous, because and a lot of times, and this is why I teach the phrase back the blue until it happens to you to so many people when I'm covering their stories, is that the first time your rights are violated, your natural rights are violated, your constitutional rights are violated, however you want to say it, the first time you experience a violation of your person and your property by cops that you know is unjustified, you don't know how to respond to it.
Nope.
You do not know how to respond to it, because you've always bought this back the blue no matter what mentality, because the only people that have problems with the cops are bad people.
Mm-hmm.
And with the advent of people, not auditors, mind you, I'm not talking about First or Second Amendment auditors. I'm talking about with the advent of people having dash cams in their cars now, more and more people are getting dash cams. Most of them are doing it to catch other people's bad driving. But now with dash cams being more prevalent, cell phones being more prevalent, people are starting to realize that the out-of-hand mentality of law enforcement is egregious, and it's everywhere. But it takes it happening to them to finally look at a guy like Jay and go, you're not crazy. You're not, well, you might be, but for other reasons.
No, you're absolutely correct. It's it's the whole mischaracterization of somebody. And that's what my neighbors wanted to do the whole time, was characterize me as this kook. So it was easy for people at City Hall and the police to harass me. And the sad part is, the police, instead of understanding, even if I am a kook, I have rights too. They just go down with it. Yeah, we got to get the kook mentality, just like you're saying. And I've run into that so much. And like I said, I was going to say, I try defeating it, because whenever I speak out at these council meetings, there's just about always an officer somewhere around. I go up afterwards and I tell them, look, man, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about the patrol sergeants or the patrollers. I'm talking about the leadership of your department who has failed our community. Okay, I need you to understand I respect you and the job you're doing. So I do my best to directly communicate to this to some of them, but who knows how far that even goes,
I've gotten to the point, and so like Wanda Mize 8351, so I never backed the blue. I even thought Officer Friendly was sketchy. Look, I understand that there are some people, not everybody was like that, and that's the people I'm addressing now, are the people who are like, who are maybe coming across this through the shorts feed or the live stream feed. And have, if you're hearing this, we're not telling you to go out and hate every cop you see. That's not what we're saying. We're not telling you to go up and stand behind the cop at the Quick Trip or Circle K or whatever and go, what are you doing in here while you're working? You work for me. I pay your salary. That's not what we're talking about.
Nope.
We're not talking about hostility. We're talking about the reality that it's all well and good for you that you don't have a problem with law enforcement, but stop giving the benefit of the doubt to the cops and start giving the benefit of the doubt to the people the cops are dealing with. And 100% should be the response of every constitution, every constitutionalist, Republican, not Republican in the party, but Republican in the sense of, no, not even conservatives. I don't care who you are, but anybody who's Republican in the sense of understanding that we are a federal republic, your first response should always be to side with the fellow citizen that you see interacting with the cops.
Yeah,
that should be your first response. Instead of going, oh, you effed around and found out, you should be saying, I hope they treat him well. I hope they treat her well. I hope that this is this is legit. That should be your response. But what I see constantly, all from angry cops swearing at people in video to use of lethal force. 98% of the people that you see commenting on those videos or posts shouldn't be having run-ins with cops. If you had less run-ins with cops, you wouldn't be having these problems. So you probably brought it on yourself. Now, here's what I want people to understand. And Jay just brought this up in reference to the women that he's talked to who say that the Orono Police Department do not know how to handle SA cases. Their response is to blame the victim. And we lose our minds, especially when it comes to children and women who are the victims of SA. You never blame the victim. But when a cop abuses somebody, and it's clear that they abuse somebody, you immediately begin to blame the victim. You should have just complied. You don't fight it out on the side of the road. And I'm not saying you should get into a fight on the side of the road. That's not what I'm arguing for. What I'm arguing for is if you're going to get upset with the person who blames the victim of SA for being the victim of SA, then maybe you should be asking yourselves, is every single time a cop puts his hand on somebody, if every single time a cop is rude to somebody, if she's using vulgarities and profanities at a person in a traffic stop because the person doesn't want to tell her where he's going or where she's coming from, then maybe, just maybe, the victim there isn't the cop. It's the person the cop is treating poorly or abusing. And you should be siding with them to say, no, you're a public servant. You're an oath taker. You have a duty to treat these people with respect and decency. And that's what's missing. And Orono is this microcosm of a much larger cosmological problem in the United States, which is that's the entirety of the law enforcement career field in the institution of policing across the United States. They have all, not every single one, but broadly, all the agencies have lost touch. They're out of touch with the communities they serve. And there is no one easy solution to that.
Yeah, and that's something I really wanted to talk about because, they talk about community policing now.
Hit the like, by the way, people, and super chats.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Hit the likes and more comments and all that. But the police themselves create this division by what they do. I mean, they've got their own language and they call us citizens. They call us something other than what they are.
Civilians, more particularly, they refer to us as civilians. Yeah. And I'm working on a couple of series of videos where I'm going to be discussing the civilian concept. And I'm also going to be writing a series of essays about that over on my Substack. At least 2. So it's more like a couple of installments, less a series.
Right. So they've got a name for us that's different than them. They've got their own language. They hang out together after work. Nowadays, you keep calling them law enforcement. I want to get back to the term peace officer.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very specific. There's a very specific reason why I continue to refer to them as law enforcement, because that is all they have become. And when I say law, it's less law and more enforcement. And it's mostly policy enforcement.
Yes, absolutely.
It's mostly policy enforcement.
And then they walk around with all this big tactical looking gear on like a soldier. I get it when you're in the military and you're at war and it's us against them. That's understandable. But when you're in a military that's called law enforcement and you're at war with the people of America, that's what's wrong. They call it the war on drugs. It's not the war on drugs. It's the war on Americans. Drugs don't go to jail. Americans don't go to jail. American families get broken up, all because of moral decisions of somebody else. And, you've got the law enforcement more than happy. And they love to call him, oh, he's just a junkie or this or that. Easy ways to completely dismiss that they're abusing human beings. And that's what drives me nuts.
Well, Adrian Wilkinson just brought up what, I'm not going to say it's a good or bad point. I believe ICE is different than the police, though. They are removing people that do not have the right to begin with. I'm assuming you mean right to be here. Okay. I, for one, as a paleo libertarian, I am a closed borders libertarian.
Me too.
I am a closed borders libertarian. I believe in the republic's rights to dictate who can and cannot come into this country, and to control that. However, what I am not in favor of are militarized, armed, unidentifiable agents being on the streets, patrolling, stopping people based on the color of their skin, their apparent ethnicity, the language that they speak, and the fact that they don't look like an American. That's the problem.
Well, up here in Minneapolis at one point, there was one gas station, and if a minority looking person drove in, ICE was all over him. That was it. That's what they were doing at the gas station to everybody who pulled up who wasn't a white person. And there's just something wrong with that. And something else people need to understand, whether they like it or not, no matter how somebody got here, whether it's legally or illegally, the Constitution still mostly applies to that person. And yes, they might end up being deported, but they do have a lot of rights along the way. And we can't
Absolutely.
just be abusing their rights in the name of Biden did something stupid. That's just not how it works.
And so, and that's the other aspect too. And this is, I'm working on another essay that's going to drop this weekend, hopefully, depending on all the other things I have going on. Like actually taking care of the house and yard work and cooking. But contrary to popular opinion, I don't get paid to do this full time. Jay, however, Jay is a full-time content creator. That's his only job. That's how, I'm kidding. Jay actually does real work. But when you, how do I want to say this? When you see yourself as not a civilian, and that's what you hear cops do all the time. Well, civilians this, civilians that. Hey, bro, you're a civilian too. You're not in the military. You were
Exactly.
The only people that are not civilians are military personnel. That's it. Public employees are civilians. Federal government employees are civilians. They are civilians. The military is the only part of the United States whose members are not civilians. And here's what they need to remember. And we have Jay's a Navy veteran, correct?
Correct. Nuclear power machinist mate. I was on the Enterprise.
We have AVA, who is a veteran of the Army like me. I know there are other veterans as well. When they tell you you are no longer a civilian, it is not to elevate you into a superior position. It is meant to show you belong now to the government.
Yes.
That is exactly what it means. But what cops have done, what law enforcement institutions across the United States to a man have done is they have elevated themselves into a superior position and refer to you plebes as nothing more than civilians. And so they have flipped the script and made the civilians the peons, the nobodies, and the law enforcement officers are the superior. And that's why we hear people talk about, you need to respect the authority of law enforcement. Look, one, I don't owe any law enforcement officer respect simply because they're in a uniform or in a position of power where they have a badge. I will respect you as an individual human being, but I am not respecting you because of the position you hold. Start there. One, if you aren't a civilian, you are the property of the government, Mr. Officer, which means you work for me and now I can tell you what to do. But they won't tolerate that because they have flipped it and made the civilian the peon. Yep. And that's the reason why there's a problem with this civilian mentality. And you were saying that, that's that us versus them.
Yep.
And they have begun to treat everyone in the United States, and you've dealt with this, you've seen it yourself. Everyone's a threat and everyone's a potential hostile target. And it is now translated to even guys on patrol in small towns and in counties all look like they're plated up and ready to go to war.
Oh, God, yeah. And that drives me nuts. I was driving by the Dairy Queen up here a couple of weeks ago, and I saw an officer trying to do community involvement talking to some kids with an ice cream cone, and I thought that's great, but dude, you look like a soldier ready to go to war. And I just don't get this mentality that in our community out here, and I understand what officer safety is about. Unfortunately, officer safety has become more important than civilian safety. But
No, that's the only thing they stress in their shift briefings. When
Yep.
they have shift briefings, that's the only thing they stress. This person did this today, this person did this today. Be look out for this person, and we have reports that there's somebody in town that might be dangerous to law enforcement. I want to address something here because this goes to kind of what we were just talking about, Jay, and you've experienced this, as well. The same rights and laws apply to them as us. However, the military can kill someone in justification of protecting this country. That's actually not true. The
No,
military
not
cannot.
true.
The military cannot just kill people who might pose a threat to this country. If that were the case, we would have put our military on our border, and we would have killed anybody who looked like they were trying to come across the border illegally. But the military's role is not to just kill anybody that could be a potential threat to this country. If that's all that the military is for, the military would be patrolling our streets. And you do not want that. You do not want the military patrolling our streets, even if they're helping to look for illegals.
Right.
That,
No,
you
you're
don't
absolutely
want
right.
that.
And you got to understand that this person's right in a sense that many times military does do that and get away with it, but it
it's
doesn't
not
mean that,
lawful.
right, it's not lawful to do it. And there are occasions people are actually held accountable. For instance, when the family got bombed outside the airport in Afghanistan with 7 family members or something, there should have been prosecutions. That's a place where they got away with it.
Mhm.
Bombing an Iraqi girls' school or Iranian girls' school instead of the military base next door, people should be held accountable for that. But the military is trying to cover it up. Why are they trying to cover it up? Because they know it's wrong. That's why.
As you've interacted with we got far afield just because of the nature of the content that we're covering. But
Sure.
as you got into studying and understanding the Orono Police Department more, you saw this ineptness because of the chief. And you've watched him groom his replacement. And that's why you called on the Orono City Council and the mayor to seek an outside alternative for the good of the city, and actually ultimately for the good of the police department as well.
Yes.
His replacement, that's locked in. Like they've already said, he will be the replacement, correct?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're doing. I know they've interviewed a number of people last month. This stuff's all behind closed doors and nobody will talk about it. All I can do is keep my fingers crossed at this point that, the nice thing was when I went up and talked to them, they all paid close attention to what I had to say. Unlike the last council who wouldn't listen to anybody, that they paid close attention to what I had to say. And I didn't try to take shots at anybody. I just tried to point out the reality that these people really don't know what they're doing. And it might be helpful for someone else who does know what they're doing to come in and, get things ship shape a little bit. I mean, it happens in football teams all the time, doesn't it? Why can't we do that with our police department?
Well, let's be honest. We are Rome.
Yeah.
We are Rome. And you bring up sports, especially football teams, if the coach isn't performing.
Yep.
We are more concerned with how our favorite pro or college team, or even our high school teams are performing in sports and in athletics than we are with the nature of how our system is operated. And I think that's why in your situation with Orono, you are seeing that this disconnect that is taking place between the police department there and the non-law enforcement citizenry is because people are so easily distracted by everything else that's going on. And when they can't distract us with the entertainment, like arguments over, Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl and Kid Rock performing an alternative Super Bowl show, which whatever. If they can't distract us with that, then they distract us with what you said. We got to find another country to bomb.
Yep.
And it sounds trivial and it almost sounds passe to say that, but it's absolutely reality. They are entertaining us and distracting us to our own demise. And we focus on that. We either focus on this left versus right argumentation, Republican versus Democrat argumentation, or we focus on whether or not the Vikings are going to make it to the Super Bowl this year. And by the way, 2026, 2027, no, Minnesota's not going to the Super Bowl. And even if they do, they're going to lose. So like, just prepare yourself for disappointment. That's
okay. As long as we're talking about that, the best way to put it is don't ever believe, because they'll play a game with you, the Vikings will, and you won't believe and you won't believe and you won't believe. And then finally you're like, yeah, you know what? I think they're gonna.
This is the year.
And that's when they crush you.
Right.
As soon as you believe, you get
Minnesota
to be crushed.
Vikings are experts at snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory.
Oh yes, for sure they are.
But that's really where we're at. And it's
a little more than that where I live. There's so much lakeshore in the city of Orono and the other communities that the Orono Police Department represents. All people really care about out here is, when is my dock going in and when do I get to use my boat? I mean, it's a mentality, and all the other city stuff just doesn't really matter to them a lot of times, because unlike me, people have more money than God, so they don't really care what's going on around them. But right. It's just it's the detachment attitude of the people, and it's so much easier.
Which leads to even more of that disconnect.
Yes, and it's so much easier for these people who are detached to listen to someone denigrate me than it is to call me or listen to me.
Right, absolutely. This is that, and I'm not picking on Adrian. Adrian, we love that you're in the chat. If I point out something that you're saying, it's not to make you feel bad, but this is exactly, that's the distraction. Adrian, your comment, even the Iranian people want to be liberated, much like Venezuela. Show me a single Venezuelan that's been liberated, Adrian. There's been not one single. It's still the same administration. Chavez might be gone, or excuse me, Maduro might be gone, but it's still the same administration. The people are still under the same communist Marxist dictator that they had there before. Nothing's changed there. That was a distraction.
And I get it. Some people might want to, but how do you know what they really want?
But there again, it's the distraction. That's what I'm getting at. We're told, we're being told, oh, look, the Venezuelan people, they want this.
They want freedom. Yep.
Just Jay, talk for a minute. I got a call coming in from somebody I don't normally get calls from.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Okay, well, since it's on me here, I'll just keep going on about this Orono Police Department. And basically, over the years, I used to be like everybody else. Okay, man, you got to back the cops. The cops are good guys. When I was on the council, I voted to add a cop to the department when other people didn't. And so until it started happening to me, until my neighbors started filing false police reports, until the police wouldn't leave us alone, I always was like, yeah, you got to back the blue. But then I see this kind of stuff happening. I mean, not just personally to me, but I got people coming out of the woodwork telling me what's happened to them, person after person after person. And most people don't want a story done about them. They just want someone they can literally vent to, who understands the crap they went through with the same police department, because they know there's nowhere to go to really file a complaint or get justice. And that's proven by the fact that Orono exonerated itself 31 out of 31 times. And who knows how many more complaints, because I know, looking through those complaints, some of the complaints I filed weren't even included in that. Mine, I guess, are just thrown right in the shit can.
And that's what I've run in. And I don't know, I'm the guy on the right, that must be you, is coming from an honest point of view. The guy on the left has a narrative. We all have narratives. What? I trying to sell a book or some. No, I'm not trying to sell anything. What the? Okay, now I'm done with you because I didn't jump on board with your narrative, which, by the way, uh, um, okay, I've run into the same thing too, Jay, with the people whose stories that I cover. Is a lot of people you'll get you'll get a you'll get a segment and go, hey, I've had this situation happen to me and I'm wondering how I should proceed, how I should even feel about this. What are your thoughts? And so you'll talk to them and like they have a legitimate story and they want it told. They want help. Then you'll get another segment. Cops did this to me, cops did that to me, the government did that to me, city council did that to me, the county board did that to me, and you talk to them and they're I almost dropped the F-bomb. They're freaking fruitcakes. I'm trying not to swear in streams as much unless it's really worth being angry about. And they're just freaking fruitcakes who have no story and they have nothing but just terrible experiences because they're literally just jerks all the time to everybody. They're jerks to their neighbors, they're jerks to they're jerks to the cops when they see them. You know, they literally go out of their way to flip the cops off and then they get in trouble for something else. And then, well, the cops just doing that because I flipped them off. And it's just on and on and on. But then you get another segment of people that you just mentioned, which is, I don't want to talk about this because I'm absolutely terrified that something bad will happen to me if I talk about it.
Yeah.
And what I tell people constantly is, look, the only way something bad's already happened to you. If you're afraid to talk about you being abused by law enforcement, they've already won.
Yep.
They've already won. The bad thing has already happened to you. They've already taken your voice away from you because they've managed to silence you before you even had a chance to speak, because they put this fear into you that if you speak, you're going to get in more trouble. And what I do tell people in the long run is the best way to speak, or the best way to avoid having more conflict, the best way to avoid more abuse is to be vocal as possible, because you put your story out publicly and you get other people talking about it. And what you end up doing is you shed light on it, and then they don't want to mess with you. They don't want to have conflict with you anymore because they know you're going to continue to have that light pointed at them, shining on them. And that's and this is what the reality is. And especially for any of the conservative types who might be struggling with the whole idea of back the blue until it happens to you, because they want to stop at just back the blue. I want you to ask yourself something. And Jay, I think you'll understand what I'm going to say, because I've heard you refer to it at times. If you're a small government type and you don't trust the government, and you reflect that the old adage that Ronald Reagan espoused, which are the 9 most terrifying words, right?
Yeah.
I'm from the government and I am here to help. Right? That Reaganites, Reagan conservatives, Reagan era conservatives, they love that because it vocalized for them what they had been saying for years, which is, I don't trust the government. I don't trust the government, and I don't want the government to try and run my life. So the disconnect, the cognitive dissonance really is a lot of the same people, the small government types who don't trust the government, fully invest full trust in the most powerful part of the government, which is law enforcement.
Yeah.
That's what I want them to understand. You are giving full trust to people who are solely vested with the power to take your life anytime they want, based on the reality that you might have committed a crime.
Or that they might simply be scared of you.
Exactly. And so the true conservative position is the paleo-libertarian position, which is, I don't trust anybody in government. The minute you
That's
go
right.
into the employ of government, whether you be a cop, a teacher, a janitor at the school, which, by the way, the school board is a board of government. They have control over your life. They have the most taxation authority over you in your state. Your school board can tax you more than anybody else. You should trust no one in government, and you should trust no one who holds office until they have earned that trust with you specifically. Specifically.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why I tell everybody, every interaction you have with any government official, you should be recording. Because you know what? They're going to tell you one thing, then you're going to hear something else 2 days later and go, wait a minute, wait a minute. And it's too late at that point if you didn't record it.
When you look at the future of the Orono Police Department, I don't want to say that your struggles with Orono are done. You never know. I think you've taught them a lesson. With 15, right? Between you and your beautiful wife, you've taught them 15 lessons.
Well, five criminal charges we fought, but
right. But I mean, you've gone.
There have been so many other things
Yeah.
along the way. I had to teach Orono Police to stop harassing me.
Yeah.
For instance, and that was a process to get to that point. And it's crazy how much work you actually have to go through. See, because if at any time I had done something stupid, right? Like if I had gone after a cop or gone after my neighbor or broken a camera my neighbor aimed at my property, then they get to say they're right. Look, Nygard's in jail. Look what he did. We were right to be after him the whole time. That's why it's so hard to stand up to government and the oppression, is you actually have to be the better person every single time. If you aren't, you're going to lose, and they're just going to point the finger at you with justification.
Do you think with a change of leadership, even if it's somebody from within, that maybe you've solved your problem for you at least?
I think with the change of Orono Council, when we worked real hard last election to boot
Yeah,
the
you
last
guys fought
mayor out.
a real hard fight. Yeah, you got the last mayor gone.
Yeah, we got him just clobbered 2-1. And he'd been in a while, and for a novice to beat an incumbent like that's a pretty big victory when the people rose up to do it. And it wasn't me that did it. I realized early on, I can't get rid of this guy. It's got to be the people. So I spent my channel and my time exposing what was going on,
Yeah.
and it pissed a bunch of people off, and then they started showing up. And, as a group, we were able to do it. And unfortunately, that's what it takes to make change sometimes. You've got to get everybody on your side and work together.
Are you concerned that a change will erase the progress that you've made in getting them off your back? That sounds very, kind of a self-centered position for you, but I think at some point in the fight, you just have to go, okay, I can't do anything for anybody else. My concern is I've got to get them off my case. And I'm not going to capitulate to what they want to get them off my case, but I have to make this so costly and so much of a struggle for them that it hurts them somehow, not physically, that it hurts them somehow. Do you think you're in a position now where at least they're not going to bother you? They may change their focus on somebody else, but they're not coming after the turbine guy anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm in a pretty safe spot at this point for a couple of reasons. One of the big reasons is I'm not afraid to speak out, and they know it. And they know if something stupid happens, I'm going to publish it. And then everybody's going to know about it. So they've got that inherent fear. In fact, one of the officers a number of years ago, when I finally put cameras up on my house to watch my property because a neighbor mayor was coming down threatening us, he sent out an APB to the whole police department. Look out, Nygard's got cameras up now. Literally. Other people have cameras in the city, but they don't put an APB out about that. But me, they did. So just me putting those cameras up instilled some fear in the police. But it's more than that. The two neighbors who were pushing all this, the one uphill sued us, we went through this big lawsuit and we ended up buying their house. So we got them out of there. I fixed it up and sold it. And then the guy downhill ended up moving too.
Building your
So
own
the
little
two,
Nygard HOA.
I sure wish I had the money to do that, but we ended up in a position where the two main civilian instigators are gone. And I really want to go talk to the chief before he leaves, because I remember one point he said to me, as we were talking about how they were harassing me, he says, "Well, but you got to admit the Orono police have been polite and respectful to you all the time." And I said, "Sure, I do. You have to admit that while they were harassing me, I was polite and respectful back." And he didn't know what to say about that, because his whole attitude is, we're the police and that's all that matters, right? But now
Right.
that these instigators are gone, I want to go talk to him and say, how many police reports have been filed about me, police complaints, since the two idiots left? Since these two guys are gone, because there's been nothing. I mean, can't you recognize that you were used and abused by these people? I mean,
And,
can you at least
and
give me that much before you go?
and that goes to your point that they're more than willing to step in and serve particular people. And
Yes.
that's just, it's just absolutely true. And more often than not, where the outrage comes in from conservative types, and as I, once again, I'm paleo libertarian. I'm as close to, being a Buchananite as in more so than anybody in the Republican Party is today. The outrage against government, they'll rage against their city councils, they'll rage against their mayors, they'll rage against their county board, and they'll definitely rage against the legislature at the federal level and at the state level. But what they don't realize is that more often than not, the law enforcement that they back so strongly is more loyal to the police, or not the police, to the mayor, to the city council, than they are to the citizenry that they're
Yep.
meant to serve. And that's, somebody above said government doesn't like, they don't like transparency. They don't. We all agree. Government does not like transparency. But what do they demand of us? They want us
Yeah.
under constant surveillance. What do you think all the flock cameras are for? What do you think all of these data centers are being built for? They're being built to up the amount of surveillance, and not surveillance of them, it's surveillance of us. And they don't like people. I mean, I've got video after video that I've watched of law enforcement going and literally breaking surveillance cameras down, taking them down off of private property when they go onto the private property. They don't even have a warrant, but they just on private property, they cover it up, they throw it on the ground, depending on what kind it is. And if you did that to them, if you did that to their equipment, what would happen to you?
All you got to do is threaten to do it to their equipment.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And so you could tell how much any level of government cares about transparency for itself based on how willingly they share information. And you've run into that because you've had to do data request after, some people call it FOIA. FOIA is a federal thing, not a state thing. But you've had to do state versions of FOIA countless times, and they fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. They drag their feet. They don't want to have anything to do with it. You ask for body cams from law enforcement. You ask for statutory obligations from city councils. They don't want to do it. They can charge you whatever they want to charge you for it. They can make it so expensive that you can't afford it. And they do these things over and over and over again. And that's what I've been, I'm getting at, is what Jay's been dealing with in Orono is a microcosm of what all of us could be dealing with on any given day.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody in this country is subject to it, as long as one peace officer gets it in his mind that they have to do something about you. And it doesn't even have to be that. It could be one city council. It could be one city staff. It could just, all it takes is one in this whole link. And then they start down this path of mischaracterizing who and what you are and what you're doing, so that they can use their power to do what they want to do. And
It's a
want is the word.
so you do have some plans, and we won't go into great detail on them here right now, but you do have some plans to start trying to help um, other people in your community begin to stand up and hold not just the city council and the mayor, but the police department accountable, and to kind of check them and test them for their knowledge and their comfort level with the general citizenry exercising their rights. You do have some plans going forward. How soon are you wanting to put those plans in place?
Sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned, given what's going on. Given the timing of certain things, I mean, I've sooner the better. Next week or two, I want to try something out and see if I'm thinking what's going to happen is going to happen. And thankfully, I've learned a lot over the last 10 years where I'm in a better position to deal with something like this right now in the proper way in order not to set them up, but to be able to hold them accountable for their incompetence. That'd be the way to put it.
At what point do you, and I not out of not to correct you, but to actually get your take on this, at what point do you stop referring to it as incompetence and begin to see it maybe as just willful, either willful neglect or indifference, or just blatant malfeasance on their part when it comes to the rights of the people?
Well, I'd say all that wraps into incompetence. When I say the word incompetence, it's an all-encompassing word for me to wrap all of that in, because I mean the malfeasance is basically corruption, and you know, to try to get them to deal with any of that within their own department, I found is just impossible. But there are now new ways to shine lights on these things where we didn't have these tools before. And I'm going to start taking advantage of these tools, these new tools out there, to kind of publicize what I think is still going on. And I'm not quite sure how else to put that right now without giving away what my plans are.
Ray Cindervane, I've never had to say your name publicly before. Normally, I'm just over on Skipper's chat when you're there. So believe it or not, adults are capable of respectful conversation regardless of their political opinions. I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I get, it's so funny. Jay and I think we've talked about this on a thread on Facebook before. You get one side, if you say something, they're like, you retarded leftist, and then you say the exact same thing on another thread, and you're a white nationalist, alt-right racist, you know.
Yep.
Just because you don't reflect the view of the person who's saying the thing you're trying to comment on. So thank you for pointing out it is possible to have respectful conversations with people. Tim Miller, what are we smoking? Nothing right now. I don't smoke, so. Do you have?
I'll take care of that later.
Oh, hey, Skipper in with the super chat. Thank you, Skipper.
Yep. Nice.
Skipper's a perfect example of an adult that can have a conversation with somebody that he doesn't always agree with. Jay might be smoking something later. I don't. I enjoy my adult entertainment. Oh, that's probably not the right word to use there. Never mind. We'll scratch that. Let's edit that out and post. It's a live stream. Can't do that either. You have this goal with this project that you're doing is really twofold. It is to expose their ineptness, but to kind of move them out of it as well.
Educate them. That's the whole thing.
Them, but it's also to educate your neighbors.
Yes. My neighbors and other people. You know, there's a lady in Chaska who's being criminally prosecuted because her cat got into her neighbor's yard. She's not received.
Wait, say that again.
Yes, there's a lady in Chaska, Minnesota, who is being criminally prosecuted for trespassing because her cat got into her neighbor's yard. And then she ended up getting another ticket recently. And get this, the neighbor lady literally took the cat into her house, then called the cops, which, by the way, is illegal in Minnesota. You can't bring your neighbor's pets into your house without your permission. But it's crazy because, first of all, I get it. Some people don't like cats. And you get all these people online that go, oh, people should just keep their cats inside. And it's like, but that's not who cats are. Cats have a different nature than dogs, and putting a cat on a leash doesn't work. But we have actually been able to educate the Chaska Police Department some, because in the first video we did, we pointed out that trespassing is not the crime to be using here. Chaska's got an animal wandering statute. That's what they should be using. So I'm confident that trespassing one's going to go right out the door, because the second ticket they gave her was an animal wandering. So I pointed out to her, I said, look, at least we're teaching the Chaska Police Department something now. We're educating them on their own policies.
You might still get a ticket, but you're going to get the right ticket.
Yes, which is less severe. Okay, it's a less severe ticket, but it actually makes sense given how the statutes are written. But the sad part is how we had to educate them on how to do their job.
And just so everybody knows, Jay, Turbine Guy, and I might be teaming up on one of these projects if we can make the time work. Because what he wants to do will be an absolute blast. You guys will love it, because we will be at least doing video, if not live streaming it when we do it. You bring up the cat issue, and this is where we get to this whole, like, there's so many laws, so many codes, so many ordinances and everything that we're dealing with, and every one of us is breaking a law or of some sort all day long. You just can't, you're doing something that any level of government has deemed illegal or a violation of their policies and their standards. And Howard, actually, Think Locally, Act Locally, exactly, is where the rubber hits the road. That is a series that I do, is Think Local, Act Local series, by the way. So thank you. The timing was good. And that's where this comes in. So you bring up this woman in Chaska who's being criminally prosecuted because her cat got out and got in the neighbor's yard. And the way that the cat at large ordinance, like, it's one of those things where you think about it on its face. At first, you don't even think about it. Then when you actually start delving into how stupid that is, it's the same thing that I deal with here with my chickens. And you've heard this story. I have unlawful chickens. I want people to think about this. I have chickens that could get me in legal trouble because of the ineptness of an ordinance in our town. So in the city I live in, Spring Valley, Minnesota, you have to have a license to have your dog or your cat. But all you have to do is walk down, present that your animal's been, vaccinated, and you prove that, you get the license, you pay that fee one time, and you're good to go. To have chickens in Minnesota, or not in Minnesota, but in the town that I live in, you have to go down to the city. You have to get the permit. You have the application for the chicken permit. You have to take that and get written permission from all your neighbors whose properties touch your property. And all it takes for your permit to be denied is for one neighbor to say, I don't want this person to have chickens.
Yep.
And then even if your neighbors do agree, you have to go and still get permission from the city, and then the city will inspect your property and determine whether or not you can have chickens. So they make you jump through a hoop to have an animal that will harm no one, which is also self-sustaining, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you could feed chickens pretty much everything, and then they give you these wonderful golden butt nuggets, that you could just go pick up every day and cook.
Yep.
And that's the stupidity of government. There is no such thing as intelligent government. the longer government goes on, the more stupid they get. No, yes, Tim, I'm not joking. I'm 100% serious. I have to get permission from my neighbors. But guess what? My neighbor who wants to have 4 dogs, I don't have to give my permission for that. My neighbor who has cats that run all over, they don't have to get my permission for that.
Which, by the way, cats and dogs that could kill your chickens.
Exactly. But it would be my fault for having the chickens.
Right.
So, but yeah, so and then I feed my neighbor's eggs. I actually have done that. But Jay and I are going to team up on at least one of these projects, if not more. And Jay will be coming back when I actually can start breaking down the body cam video. And I've watched it, but if you've ever been around when I do a deep dive on body cam, it takes me hours just to prepare to do the deep dive. It's not something where I sit down and then watch it for 15 minutes and then I do a 40-minute show. It's a deep dive. So
people don't understand how much work it takes to run these channels and do these videos in a professional manner, so that not only do people want to watch it, but they understand what you're going through.
What you're going through and why what you're breaking down is important. So when I get around to doing my series on the body cam video that Jay sent me from there in Orono, we will be having Jay back on to talk about the process that he had to go through just to get that. And that's what I'm talking about with the transparency. Jay had to go through a process to get that. And then somebody else, after Jay jumped through hoops and chased Satan around the moon 5 times to get the body cam video, somebody else showed up and had it too. And
yeah, they just gave it away to anybody else who wanted it.
To everyone else.
Even the order said the body cam footage is to be released to me. They gave it to anybody who showed up.
Yep. So we'll talk about that when I do that show. Jay, plug yourself a little bit and tell people where they can find you, and then we'll get this over with so that you can get back onto your day.
Go get all this damn cat hair off me. I've had a cat in my lap. I got cat hair all over me.
Tim, Jay and I thank you for tuning in to the end of our conversation. Give me a follow, and I'll try and check out your stuff and watch your stuff as well. I'll follow you back. I follow pretty much everybody that actually has content I subscribe to.
Sure. Well, like we talked about, the thing we really agree on is holding government accountable for different reasons in different parts of the government, but it's all important. And people like us, there's a lot of little people like us trying to do what they can to hold their local governments accountable. And that's where it really starts, is with the local government, because, corruption's everywhere. Good luck trying to fix federal corruption, but you got a chance in your local community. Well, I got my YouTube channel, Turbine Guy. That's my main focus, where I put this kind of stuff out, but I put all kinds of videos out. I put renewable energy. There's a couple guys who had an oversized boat on a trailer stuck in the Lord Fletcher's parking lot. I'm doing videos on those now. Or I do animal videos. Like I wake up in the morning, I got 2 cats fighting on me. Say, all right, cats, that kind of thing. But, I've been to Nigeria. I've done a bunch of videos there. I do videos when I travel. If I see unique things when I travel, I throw that up there. It's kind of a wide variety on my YouTube. But my real main focus, how I actually tend to make money, is not on YouTube. It's with renewable energy. And I installed solar power, micro wind battery banks. But more than that, I like to sell DIY systems to people. And I've got YouTube videos showing how to install it. And I'll give you all the advice you need and help you with the paperwork to get approved. But my goal is to empower people to help themselves. I'm not into thinking, well, geez, the state of Minnesota is going to save the world. I'm into thinking, you know what? I can take care of myself. And for instance, our house down in Florida, we pay $30 a month in the summer, 30 to 40 for an electric bill, while our neighbors are paying $300 to $400. In the winter, we get money back. That's how you take care of yourself, is by doing what you can to not be reliant on the system. Because if there's anything that's screwed up in this world, it's the system. If it's a judicial system, if it's a legal system, if it's the law enforcement or peace officer system, the school systems, they all, even churches. I always say, a lot of these things are good ideas, But the problem is people are involved in them. And once you get people involved in anything, someone's going to have an ego or someone's going to get greedy and the system's going to get skewed. And then some people are going to be left out and screwed while other people get to survive and have a great time. And that's how all
Absolutely.
these government systems work. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm about trying to change, trying to educate people about what's going on, like what could go on with China crashing the grid, like we talked about earlier today. There's so many things that people just don't know about or don't think about. But I see it's our job to educate them the best we can so that they can make their own decisions on what's good and bad. So
Yep.
that's
Empower
me in a
yourself.
nutshell. Yeah, no, it's not just my Turbine Guy YouTube channel. I got a website, gogreenenergyonline.com, gogreenenergyonline.com. You can find my email there or on the YouTube. Send me an email if you're interested or you need some help or you just want to talk yourself about the crap you've been through.
And by the
You know?
way, Jay does not sponsor the channel yet. So, I mean,
Yeah.
but Jay, I really appreciate having you on, and I'm going to do my close and I'll let you, go off screen so you can, do whatever you need to do to get rid of all the cat hair. And then I'll
Yeah.
do my close and I'll touch base with you after that.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you for-
Turbine Guy signing off, everybody.
Thank you, Jay. Oh, folks, thanks. It was a great chat. I love talking to Jay. As you can tell, that we have mutual thoughts on a lot of things, and we will rabbit trail when we talk. So that's why I had to start to wrap it up. I agree with what Jay was saying about you getting into these parallel systems and working hard to be self-sufficient in as much as possible. I do want to once again, I just want to remind everybody, I do have a partnership thing going over at Give Send Go. And if you get a chance, the link's in the description. Check it out. Even sharing it helps. The partnership is explained on the Give Send Go site. So why we're doing a partnership and what we're looking for, and it's literally there is a benefit to you in that partnership if you get involved. So if you can, and like I said, and if the best way you can help is to share it, I would love to. Have we emailed? I can't remember. If we haven't emailed, please email me. It is mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. I would love to email with you. Yeah, email me, mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. So yes, please check out the Give Send Go. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. That helps as well. Helps with the algorithm. Like this. Come back and hype this, please. There's a hype button. I can't hype my own stuff. Otherwise I would, but hype this. And if you like what I do here and you don't want to do the Give Send Go thing, there's also community here. Channel memberships are huge. Sharing the content is huge. I want to give a big shout out to Natalie, my researcher, who, like I said, is taking the week off, and she deserves it. She's on vacation, and I'm glad that she got a chance to go. She has worked her butt off for the last 3 weeks alone on some of the stories that I'm working on. While you're at it, if you're a channel member, thank you so much for what you do. You guys have you keep the internet on. Like literally my channel membership pay for my internet and part of my electricity. Oh, Howard, thank you very much. Right, it coming in just like that. Thank you. Very much appreciated. It's been a struggle ever since walking away from the career field. I've lost over 75%, almost 75% of my income for standing on my principle and honoring my oath in ways that a lot of people in the career field would have never understood. So that's what the Give Send Go is about. And like I said, it is a partnership. I am going to go. I might have another stream yet today, breaking down some body cam. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to do that. Depends on the weather. And we're going to have another stream tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to be doing at least another video release on Monday. So until next time, my friends, fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And as always, Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.